Welcome back. For this week's fly, we're going to go with another streamer. I know we did 2 or 3 weeks, I think, we were on the nymphs, but we're going to go back to the big stuff here. We're going with Kelly Galloup's Nancy P. This is a crayfish pattern of his. Solid pattern. I fish this a lot spring, summer, early fall. Probably need to fish it a little bit more than what I do, but I have caught some really good fish on this. But to start out, we're going with the Daiichi 2461 size 4. Just going to get a quick thread base down, same as always, you know, hang your thread down right where the barb starts to ascend. That's where you want to stop your thread. Just gives you a reference point of where you're going to be stopping your material. And we're going to tie in the antennas here, and these are just simply fly enhancer rubber legs. They're in pumpkin and brown, so just give a quick measurement here. These are going to wind up being a little bit shorter because we're going to trim them just about the length of the hook for your quick reference point. Now this is a tricky part of this fly, because if you go and pull down real tight right now, let me get one more. If you make a real tight wrap with this on the back, your legs are going to spread out, and it's just going to be really tough to keep them together how you want them. So just kind of work your way up through this just with nice loose wraps. And then right where my scissors are, where the barb of the hook starts to go up, that's where my last thread wrap is. And you can see it's a nice loose wrap, and these legs aren't all spread and just out of control. They're somewhat going in one, well, they're all going in one direction, and they're not just all crazy and everything, so they're sitting how we want them, and that's because we had that loose thread wrap there at the back. Now as you work your way to the front, you can throw some tighter wraps in, but I'm just going to open loop this to the front just to retain the taper that we have going on here. And it's not really a taper, it's just everything's consistent through the front, and when we put our body material on, it's going to be important because you're not going to have any bumps or anything throughout it. And stop this about 1/4 of an inch shy from the eye of the hook, and we'll explain why once we get going a little bit further into this. But like I said, as you get further away from where you tied in these antennas, you can lock these down into place a little bit more. You can throw some tighter thread wraps in there, and we're going to work this right to the back, and I'm just going to throw 2 more loose wraps right where I left off, and then these are all nice and even for us, easy to work with. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure out length of the hook, and I'm going to go a little bit shorter. Now when you do this, see how I'm pulling this tight? I'll just let them loose and trim, and there you go. If you keep them tight, you keep them pulled tight, and you cut, it's easy to mismanage your distance with that, and these can wind up being a lot shorter on you than what you actually want them. So pull them tight, take off the tension, and then cut. So for our body, we're going to go with a medium Estaz, and I'm going to pick off probably 1/4 of an inch of the actual Estaz, and I'm just tying in the thread here, or the, I guess it's cotton. And we're going to open loop this up to the front and tie this, go into a 1/2 hitch and into the cradle. Now the reason we do that is because you can see if I stand this up, I didn't go right over top of my loose wraps. And I'm going to with my first wrap of Estaz. And this is going to be loose, and I'm going to get about 3 wraps in here. And I'm just going to take and pinch my tail, or the antennas and the hook, and I'm just going to anchor this into place. And as you can see, nothing rotated on us. And I still have that loose wrap in the back. And like I said, it's not an entirely loose wrap. It is a little snug, but it's not anything like what we have on the wraps in front of it. So same thing, just take 3 or 4 wraps at a time, stop and anchor this stuff. 4, and we're going to call that good. We're going to stop the body material about 1/8 of an inch from the eye of the hook so we can tie in the last material for this back portion. And the last material is going to be a barred, or not barred, it's just a Magnum rabbit strip in tan. And we're going to measure this out, so right where the hide ends, measure that out to where it's even with your antenna material, with your rubber legs. And the distance doesn't have to be perfect. We can trim this at the end just to get everything nice and even. This is just a rough estimate, you know, just a starting point, if you will, for how long we're going to have these. So we're going to take and just cut a little wedge into this, and it's going to make this easier to tie in, and it'll disappear on you when you tie it, so you don't have excess hanging over the eye. You can hang the point of the wedge just over your eye slightly and give us a quick spin, get that tied in, and then just slowly work your way to the back with your other thread wraps. And this is going to want to rotate on me just slightly, so just taking your time, making sure you get all your materials tied in how you want it. And then you're going to build a little dam of thread. Now with this GSP, it can be a little bit tricky. It will want to rotate and spin on you just slightly, just because it's so slick. Just take your time with it, you know, 1 wrap right in front of the next, getting this material tied in. And then that's a little bit short, but I think we're going to live with it. Just, it's a little bit shorter than what I like it, and I'm really nitpicking here because it's like 1/8 of an inch, but we're not going to have to trim that one. So, like I said, keep your wraps loose right through here until you get your other side tied in. And then we're going to just measure this one out, same thing. Measure it up against the one you already have tied in, and we'll peel this off. Same thing, cut your wedge so it's easier to tie in. Just kind of round that off a little bit, and we'll set this on the opposite side. Give the thread a quick spin, get that tied in, and then same thing, just working your way back with your thread, making sure you get all your material tied in and secure. And like I said, these are loose wraps, semi-loose. I mean, I'm putting a little bit of tension on, not a ton. And then we're just going to slide this back slightly, get that away from our eye. Okay, and what we're going to do is pinch this material and then give it 1, 2, and then a third snug wrap, and this will kind of flare out the pinchers is what these are imitating. It will kind of flare them out a little bit, and then you can just go back over top of this, and then you're good. We'll throw a quick half hitch in before I whip finish, just to make sure it's not going to slide forward on me. Alright, so now that we have a ton of rabbit hair in our nose, try to get that cleared out and we'll get going here. But we're just going to grab a little piece of wire here, and we're going to get this tied in. We have our back hook on, our articulation wire, our skirt. Everything is good there. Now we're going to flip this wire around, grab the hook and tie that in. And then same thing, we're going back with our Estaz. Peel a little bit of this off, get to the cotton, and go ahead and get it tied in. Same thing, half hitch, throw it in the cradle. We're going to spin this up. Get this out of the way here. And we're going to grab, same thing as we did on the back, just pinch your materials to the hook and give that a quick anchor. 4 wraps and an anchor, 4 to 5 anchor. And we're going to stop this just shy of our eyes, 1/4 of an inch maybe. And go ahead and trim that off. Next thing we're going to do is grab, this is just a Grizzly variant dyed tan Schlappen feather, and we're going to tie this in, counter wrap it with our wire. Give that a couple of wraps around it, get it secure, and then grab your Hackle pliers. And this is probably going to be a little bit longer than what I like it. Yeah, just slightly longer, but it will work. I would like that to have been just a little bit shorter. Let's see if I can get one more wrap in there. Now, because this Grizzly variant tends to be a little more webby than regular Schlappen, it's really important that you just kind of run your fingers through here, separate these fibers some, and that way you don't trap near as much when you counter wrap this. Just take a couple extra seconds and fluff that out some, grab your wire, and then start your counter wrap. I guess that's not too terribly long. Looks alright. And then just rip this right through to the front. We got a couple trapped, we'll pick those out with our bodkin if needed. Looks like we're gonna be all right actually. And tie this off. Where are my junk scissors? So go ahead, tie that and trim our back portion right here. Everything looks pretty good. We're going to grab another set of 3 rubber legs and get these tied in. Same as all the other ones that use the rubber leg, just a nice loose figure 8. Pick these up, adjust them where you want them. Still hanging straight down on us. 1 or 2 wraps right in front, pull tight, and that pulls your figure 8 tight on top. So your legs are locked in place, they're not going anywhere. Take off your tension and cut. Now we're going to take a straw and throw over top of this. This is the last portion of this fly, and it's going to be deer hair. Because we did some work, with the dungeons, cougars, the white girl, we did some deer hair work. I'm just going to speed through this. But we do have, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to edit it, and actually I still need to film it, come to think of it. But we're going to do a tying tips on some deer hair work. So maybe within the next couple of weeks I'll get that one done. But I'll quit rambling on and get back to tying. Alright, so we've got our deer hair tied in. Everything's looking pretty good right now. I wanted to stop and explain this because unlike the dungeon, we're not going to cut this, this isn't imitating a Schlappen, so we're not going to cut this flush on the bottom. And once I get this trimmed, I'll explain about the collar as well. There's a little difference in that. I mean, not a huge difference, but a little bit of difference in the collar compared to the dungeon, the cougar, the other ones that we do with the deer hair. So we're just going to round this. Just take your scissors, nice smooth cut right through here. And like I said, this is just going to have a nice rounded appearance. It's not going to be cut flush with the eyes. Just work your scissors right through this, or your razor blade. Throw it nice and rounded, and then I like to peel this up. You see how I'm pushing my straw up against it, up against the deer hair, and this just flares the hair out a little bit and allows me to get a more flush, consistent cut through it. It just looks a lot cleaner in my opinion doing it this way. And then you can take it right to the straw. You don't have to worry about cutting your legs or anything. And we have this nice rounded appearance on the bottom, and then we're going to mirror that on the top. Just work your scissors through there. And once you start getting close to your collar, if you've watched the dungeon video or the cougar, this is what I like to do. I like to get my thumb in here, and then I'll push right to my thumbnail. And the same thing, this gives that nice clean break. You're able to clean up any hairs that are in here and just not wanting to cooperate with you. So instead of going through and onesie and twosieing them with your scissors, you just get your thumbnail in there, push your razor blade right to the thumbnail, and you're set. And oh, these ones are embedded in there. Alright, so you get the gist of what we're going through. If I missed one or two of them here, I can always go back through and get it with the scissors. Now that we're down to 1 and 2 of them, I can't stop myself. I found one that had to be out of there. So just go ahead and continue to clean this up. Just give it that nice rounded appearance. And you don't want a real bulky head on this. So we're going to take and trim this down even more. Like I said, not a lot of bulk on this, just enough that's going to push some water. And I'm going to call it good with that. I could take it down even further, and I think I would be happier with it, but I'm going to call this good just to save some time here, because you guys have the overall appearance that we're going for. And then I'm just going to trim my eyes out a little bit so where we can see them. And peel off our straw. Now the last thing I'm going to say on this, and then we'll call this video good, was with the collar. Keep it a little bit more sparse than what you do with a dungeon, what you do with a cougar or anything like that. And stop your tips at the furthest point, right where your hook point is. And then that's going to be good. But there you have it. There's Kelly Galloup's Nancy P. If you guys have any questions, as always, shoot them to me, and I'll try and get them answered for you. But give this pattern a shot. It's a great pattern. Very good at, when you see it in the water, when you see it swimming, and you see these the pinchers just kind of floating around, and it's very good at imitating a crayfish. So, like I said, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.